Hello old chums, my name is Alfred and today I'm reviewing Hereward. If you're a history buff, somebody who liked Game of Thrones, or somebody with the attention span of a child, then you'll probably enjoy Hereward. The story is set around a real figure from history who's mainly known for leading the English resistance against Norman rule in England after the Battle of Hastings. But the story begins a few years before the historic battle, and part of it is set outside of England. It follows the life of Hereward, an Englishman and Mercian, a man with a troubled past. A man with a lot of inner demons and a lot of rage. Quite relatable, am I right, fellow incels? And ultimately he is a great warrior despite his psychotic rages. He is a Christian, although he doesn't really act with a Christian morality, and he behaves more like a pagan berserker a lot of the time. Through most of the story he is followed by Ulrich, a guilt-ridden monk. The two are a very reluctant pair at first, but they gather some common understanding eventually. Now that I think about it, their relationship is kind of like a buddy cop film, except they're never quite as chummy as that. Both of them are pursued by various enemies and are outcast from normal society and have to find a purpose for their lives, so that they can move on from their pasts and find meaning in a difficult and chaotic time period. There is a fair amount of court intrigue in the book, like you would find in Game of Thrones or Crusader Kings 2, but nowhere near as much as in those two I just mentioned. I rather enjoyed the combat scenes myself, many of which reminded me of reading Conan books, or watching the Conan movie. Except instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger being tanned and bubble-muscled, Hereward is perhaps a more realistic figure. He has long blonde hair, a physique that is not completely menacing, and he has various blue warrior tattoos. He looks nothing like the man on the front cover of the first book, which personally annoys me a bit. And when he wasn't reminding me of Conan in combat, he was reminding me of Rambo, with his stealth, his tricks, and his traps. No, not those type of traps. The story doesn't really have any deep meaning to it, but I think that's fine for a historical novel. It was a pleasure for me to read, and I found myself flying through the pages, except the story lulled a little bit in the middle. It took me 15 days to finish, despite there being over 460 pages, making it good value for money if you care about that sort of thing. If you want an enjoyable book to replace your binge watching of overrated TV shows, you should really get Hereward. If you don't know much about England's history, you might learn a little bit about it along the way. I give the book 8 out of 10, 1 point being detracted from the middle of the story for being a bit less enthralling than the rest of the book, and 1 more point being detracted for making Norse religion seem like it was centered on shrooms at the start of the book. Although for the rest of the book it depicted paganism a little bit more fondly, and the author showed a slightly deeper understanding of it than he did in the beginning of the book. Maybe this sort of stuff doesn't matter to you, but I'm a pagan myself and I get tired of people mocking paganism from a place of complete ignorance. There's no political correctness in this book. It shows English nationalism in a good light, which is quite refreshing these days. The one final critique that I have is that during the 2 important battles of 1066, some of the deaths of important characters were changed so that the main characters of the book could be more involved in them. So if you don't know much about 1066, you should read a bit on Wikipedia about that year, after you've read this book. Now, having played the role of a critic, I will end my review with the statement that it's quite unlikely you will regret buying this book. 8 out of 10 from me. I have been Alfred, thanks for watching fellas. Be sure to subscribe for more book reviews from me and the other autists.